were having the control of the trade routes over that area. And for the inner kingdoms, well, means that they have to pay taxes to get out to the sea waters in that way. Okay, so that was the base of the power and economy of these kingdoms, especially in the dry seasons. When that inner kingdoms, their fields doesn't produce enough, they have to deal, they have to bargain. If not, by war, they have to try to get an exit to the sea waters in that way. That basically that was the scenario that the Spaniard people were finding here when they were landing. Okay, and then you have to figure out, my friends, an Spaniard galleon ship here. 1518 is when Juan de Grijalva, the second Spanish explorer, crossed by, saw the place, and said, Sama was looking very busy and crowded like a Seville, Spain.
Oh, wow.
That's interesting, you know. Yes. Seville was the most important trade center of Europe over that times.
Right.
And well, Tulum maybe doesn't have the same size of Seville, but was having the same purpose, the same use, the principal seaport. For the Yucatecan Mayans, the exit door to the Caribbean waters in that way. And something else that is very important, my friends. Tulum was settled over the higher location of the whole coastline. From Cancun to the borderline of Belize in the south, Tulum is the highest spot. So in that way, they were having a natural control of the trade routes, a natural protection, and an excellent location to set the temples on top.
Right.
But something else too, no more of 150 yards from the shoreline into the waters, it is the second longest reef of the world. Reef and the cliff, best protection. Sand Reef, best source of seafood to complete the diet and economy.
How deep is the reef?
It reaches the surface of the water.
Okay.
Far away,
Totally protected.
Yeah. Far away, you can see how the waves are breaking over the reef in that way. Okay.
So,
and
Julio, what years was this when it was such a economic?
In this case, 1200 AD
1200 AD
to 1500 to the Spanish landing is when the city was getting the peak. Okay. And then, my friends, of course, that reef was the guideline to follow all along the shoreline in that way. Okay. The
now,
city.
Where are we right
We are
now?
just right here, out of the northern section of the wall of the city.
Okay.
Okay. The city was covering at least 6-7 miles along the coastline, no more of 2 miles inland, leaving out the walls and that thatch roof buildings, the lower class working people, 6,000-7,000 of them.
Right.
Into the walls, no more of 300 according to the archaeologists. Of course, royalty, priest class, wealthy traders and warriors in that way, that kind of people. Finally, my friends, 1547 is when the Spaniards were coming over. They conquered the Peninsula of Yucatan and the Mayans were moving out. They moved out the city and the jungle, covered the buildings with that kind of trees in that way. 1842. 1842 is when Frederick Catherwood, and a British drawer, architect, and John Lloyd Stevens, American writer and lawyer, were landing here together and rediscovered the site on these conditions. This is the main temple of Tulum, 1842. Look the roots of the banyan tree growing over the facade of the structure, like this, in that way. Okay, so 1995 is when the National Geographic Institute came here. Their archaeologists were finding remains of dyes in the walls. And once they say, the whole place was looking like this. This model was made by the National Geographic Institute. They say this, in that way, that once everything, all the buildings were painted with a blue turquoise color. And that's very interesting, my friends.
Yeah, so that's a real Mexican and Mayan color.
Yeah, it is. And into the Mayan iconography, the blue turquoise color is representing the planet Venus. That is the main god of the Mayans over this period of time. So as soon as you get in and you watch the main temple on top of the cliff, figure out with a blue color, with a background of blue sky, Caribbean waters. So they say, really, the Mayans were trying to integrate the building to the context of the environment and get the real sense to be on contact with the gods over there in that way. Then, my friends, just in the principal buildings, you could see this carving. And a human body with the feet up and head coming down. That's the planet Venus for the Mayan people. They call it Amukenkap. Amukenkap, that means honey begot. Honey begot. My friends, remember all over the world, Venus is related to fertility, love, beauty, but as a goddess. In Mesoamerica, is a god. It's a male. Look carefully between the legs, you can see the loincloth and the stinger of the honeybee. What the bees do? Pollinate, by that we get fertility.
Right.
So symbolize is coming down from heavens to rebuild the life. But how? My friends, this is the last important point here. Tulum is next to the eastern horizon.
Right.
We are in the eastern side of the peninsula. That means every day we have a great sunrises here. Over the higher location, the Mayans were having the best position to orientate the buildings according to the change of seasons. So in that way, my friends, the whole city was designed as an astronomical laboratory. But you know what happened? When they were marking the March 21st spring equinox with the main building, or one of the main temples, you know, the beginning of the spring equinox is when they were seeing Venus as morning star, the brightest star before the sun's rise. So together, the sun and the planet Venus were bringing the cycle of life of the Mayan people, because the spring is when the farmers start to prepare the fields. When Venus disappears off the sides in summer and the rainy season comes, means planting time.
Right.
And when Venus appears back as an evening star in fall, means harvest time. Together with the cycle of the sun. So that's the cycle of life of the Mayan people, guided by their main gods, sun, moon, Venus, and of course, don't forget wind, rain, etc. But that's, my friends, the balance of life for the Mayan people in that way. Basically, that's the function of the city. Questions?
No, very
Remember,
thorough.
not
Very
test
good.
at the end. Okay?
No test at the end.
No test at the end. Okay, let's go.